I guess third time's the charm recording this, isn't it? This is my third time trying to record this video. I've made it a few minutes in each time, and something has always interrupted me. So I'm going to try my best to get it out now. Excuse me if you hear the fan going in the background. It is so hot in my house today. I have no idea why. But anyway, um, I have finished all of Arcane. It's only 2 seasons, but I finished watching season 2. Now, a few days ago, I uploaded a video talking about my thoughts on season 1, and at the time, I said that just from having watched only season 1 and knowing nothing about what's to come in season 2, it is one of the best things I've ever watched. And it's so unfathomably insane to say that a League of Legends TV show is one of the best things I've ever seen. Season 1 was, I would say, a flawless masterpiece. It is absolutely perfect in every way. One of the best things ever written, in my opinion. Now, I said one more season to go. We're at the halfway point, and in that sense, it did remind me a lot of Gurren Lagann, where there was like a clear, definitive halfway point to the story, and it was going to shift after this point. And so, going into the second season, I was nervously optimistic. I said, if this can carry us through, this will be my new favorite show. This will have the chance to usurp Gurren Lagann as my favorite show slash piece of media of all time. Now, I'm going to go right off the bat and say right away, just so we get it out in the open, it failed to do that. It failed to do that. However, it is still an incredible series. And I will get to the exact reasons why. It is still most definitely one of my favorite shows. However, I would be lying if I said it was perfect and wasn't incredibly flawed toward the end. So we'll get all into that today. But yeah, I guess I'll just dive right in here. I binge watched season 2 over the course of 3 days. I did 3 episodes at a time. It's a 9 episode season, and up and through episode 7, episode 7 is really what did that shift for me, where I was like, oh my god, like, this could be my favorite show. Because it did, episode 7, there's gonna be spoilers scattered throughout, so if you really are adamant about not hearing about spoilers, I would say don't listen to the rest of this. But just before you go, if you're hopping off, overall thoughts, I thought it was a masterpiece. I think the last 2 episodes were incredibly rushed and needed more time to breathe. But anyway, episodes 1 through 7 of season 2, I was like, oh my god, this is this is going to do it. This is going to do it. This is going to take this #1 spot as my favorite show of all time. Episode 7 did the Gurren Lagann thing, where it's based on essentially based on a sci-fi supernatural mind altering, like, not mind, but reality altering force. You find some of the characters in these parallel worlds of what could have been, and it's, oh my god, it is so emotionally crushing, because it's just so beautiful. You find, like, one of our characters, Echo, finds himself in this parallel world where his life is pretty much perfect. Everything's perfect. Zaun is thriving and has had its own peace and independence. Jinx hasn't gone down the path she's gone down, so she's a perfectly, like, happy person. And the fact that he said, oh my god, I found out in this perfect reality and I could just stay here and be happy forever and there would be zero consequence, yet he chooses to find a way out of this reality and go back to his horrible, terrible life, just because he knows that those people are still out there somewhere in the multiverse, and he has to help them. And helping other people becomes before his own personal happiness. And it's like, it's a lot. It's very superhero story tropey, like my favorite trope in superhero stories, where, like, the hero sacrifices the personal things that they love in order to conduct their heroism. And it's something I incredibly value in stories. And that episode was like, oh my god, like, this is going to be my new favorite show. Unfortunately, episodes 9 and 10, 8 and 9, did not deliver. Now, I will say the plot that was conveyed itself was incredible. I would say the way, like, the conclusion of, Victor and Jace's story arc was flawless. It was perfect. Everything that set up, and like, what was really going on there, especially with Jace's past and everything like that, was literally perfect. I oh, what is the line that Victor says? It got me so hard. What was it like? In all timelines and all realities, only you. Oh my god, that's like that line to me like hit me like from Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like, in another, although you broke my heart yet again, in another reality, I would have really loved doing laundry and taxes with you. And like that line is one of the best lines ever written. And this was like that exact energy, in my opinion. And I've just lost it. It was so good. So there's so much good here. But the final two episodes are incredibly rushed. They center around Ambessa, who is a very interesting, intriguing character. But the logic behind what was going on makes no sense, in my opinion. And it seems like this is a wide consensus. It seems like I've gotten this sense from a lot of people I've talked to about this. But so essentially, Ambessa arrives at Piltover to, she doesn't explain her reason. She's very mysterious, but she's essentially there, from what we gather from her motivations over the course of the season, to, gain the support of, gain Hextech and gain the support of, those creating the Hextech and everything in order to, solve her own issues back at home with this organization known as the Black Rose. And that was interesting and cool. But then, like, she turns around and decides to conquer Piltover, which entirely defeats the point of what she was there to do. Like, I didn't understand the logical progression. Like, she wants to conquer Piltover to, like, stop Black Rose. Like, maybe the idea was like, she's like, oh, Black Rose has already infiltrated Piltover's government, so I have to take them down completely. Like, maybe I think that might be what they were trying to do, but all the Black Rose stuff was so weird and unexplained, and I kept waiting throughout the whole season to get like a real gist of like what was really going on here and what this connects to the narrative. Like, I thought there was going to be some sort of like deep connection to everything. Like, they were going to kind of be behind orchestrating everything, like in this like, Dune-esque Machiavellian sense, where they like orchestrated the whole conflict between Zahn and Piltover and everything. And I thought that's what they were building toward, and I think that would have made much more sense toward the end. But they don't explain what Black Rose was doing. And I think what they're trying to do is save it for a spin-off or another show, is the sense I got. And it is very strange that they took, if that's the case of what they're doing, it's very strange that they took so much time in the final two episodes dedicated to that conflict, as opposed to, really giving the characters and the Zahn Piltover conflict the time it needed, like, to resolve itself and conclude properly. Like, to my opinion, especially through season one and most of season two, the heart of this show, what this show was about, was not just the Zahn and Piltover conflict, but it was these characters and their struggles and their depth. And the show was such a driven character study, and like, that's what the core of the show was, and it kind of abandoned that toward the end. I feel like on paper, other than like, the whole Black Rose stuff, everything that happened was narratively great and made sense, but they just didn't give it enough time to breathe. When the final battle was ending with like less than 5 minutes left of screen time in the final episode of the show, I was like, oh no. Like, that's like when it sunk in. I'm like, oh no, we're not going to get the character conclusions that we need, are we? And they're just incredibly rushed. I think, Jinx sacrifices herself to save Vi, which I think is the perfect ending. It's the perfect development of her character. I think I will still say that Jinx is one of my favorite fictional characters. This iteration of Jinx, I've never played League of Legends, to clarify, is one of my favorite fictional characters of all time. I talked about this a lot in my season one vlog. I haven't in so long connected with a character this profoundly, and I just love her so much, and it was the perfect conclusion to her character arc. And we don't get to settle with that. I think what Gurren Lagann as what is, in my opinion, the best show ever made, did perfectly is that after the final battle, it showed that consequence. It gave that lingering and that conclusion for all the characters, and we got a sense of like, like, the ending of Gurren Lagann is perfect. It's the best ending to any piece of fiction ever. And I thought they were going to achieve that, but they did. They just really, and with the way Caitlin and Vi end the season, it seems like they're setting up for another show that's Noxus focused and dealing with like, you know, oh my god, why am I blanking on her name? I'll look it up right now. Sorry, I gotta get it. How am I totally blanking on her name? And of course, I look and it's not even showing up. Mel. I think it's gonna Mel's awesome character, incredible character. But yeah, I think that seems like it's going to focus on her taking out Black Rose back in Noxus, and that's the sense I get because I think I've heard that they're doing other shows in this universe with some of these characters, so that makes a lot of sense. And I think it seems like Vi and Caitlin are going to help with that, but wouldn't it have been so fucking special if the show ended with like Vi and Kate like fucked off somewhere and lived like a happy rest of their life together, or like it ended with like even if they didn't have together, like Vi realizing like she just has to leave everything and start from like, and decides to wander the earth helping people like Simone at the end of Gurren Lagann. Like I thought that would have been the perfect end. Both of those could have been perfect endings for her character, but instead now they're going over for the next show. It was just so incredibly rushed, and it's I think it's all the more bittersweet because it was shaping up to be my new favorite thing ever made. It was. I think that just like stings a little bit harder than if it was bad for a few seasons like Ruby. And to tie it back into Ruby, I talk about this a lot in my season 1 video, but I would be shocked if the writers of this show weren't disgruntled Ruby fans. It almost feels the energy I get, and I could be totally wrong about this hypothesis, but the energy I got from the show was that it was a group of disgruntled Ruby fans were essentially like ex-Ruby fans were essentially given like a huge budget to make their What If Ruby Was Good project, but they'd have to tie it into the League of Legends IP. That's exactly what like I got. That was my sense for this show. Like this has so many elements of Ruby and what Ruby should have been in its later volumes, that I was watching this, and it gave me that exact same feeling and sensation when I was watching the first 3 and even some of 4 volumes of Ruby. It gave me that exact feeling in my gut, that feeling in my chest. Like it's so profoundly similar in energy and characters and like even some world building. I think it should have gone more this direction in the later seasons of Ruby, but yeah, it definitely has that energy. I'd be so shocked if that wasn't the reality in which the context in which this was created. It could very well not be, but it just felt so Ruby-esque. Yeah, I will I guess to sort of like tie things together and wrap this up because I just realized we've been going quite a while. I think that Arcane overall is still such an incredibly special project. I think it is one of the greatest stories ever told. I think that the characters in it are some of my new favorites of all time, especially Jinx, who is my one of, if not tied for my favorite character of all time. And God, I mean, I didn't even mention all the, what's her name's Isha? Is that her name? The narrative parallels of that, to her relationship with Jinx's relationship with Vi and the whole conclusion of that. Oh my God, it is one of the best moments in any show. I was sobbing. It was so good. Just the fact that this is a League of Legends TV show is just astounding to me because this is one of the best series ever made, and I think, like I said, that's why it stings all a little more that the ending was so rushed. I think if it had, honestly, I think the show should have been 3 seasons. I think 3 seasons would have been the perfect length to expand upon everything and wrap everything up. And maybe they could have paced it a little better, because it also, another thing is that the Zaun Piltover conflict kind of takes a backseat toward the end, which was the core conflict of the series. And I understand that it's very George R. R. Martin-esque where these feuding societies need to come together to defeat an external threat that's more pressing and important. Um, but and that's definitely the lesson I think they were trying to get with this show. But it just seems like they kind of just threw that away. They're like, yeah, that was the whole conflict here. We don't need to resolve that, which was frustrating. But yeah, I was listening to, funnily enough, I listen to sometimes Brandon Sanderson videos and podcasts, even though I've never read a single Brandon Sanderson book. And he was saying himself, this show is very George R. R. Martin-esque. This feels like it could have definitely be written by George R. R. Martin. I 100% agree with that statement. I like the character writing is so George R. R. Martin. I think George R. R. Martin is the greatest character writer of all time. I'd be surprised if there definitely wasn't influence there. It is such a George R. R. Martin-esque story, very Song of Ice and Fire, and even the way the whole like Victor plot went is so reminiscent of Bran in the Song of Ice and Fire. They're essentially like I got that vibe so much, and I think that's like where Bran's story is going, is 100% like the Victor story in my opinion in this. So there was just so much, like, I don't know, there's, as you could tell, there's so much I love here. There's so much Gurren Lagann in this. There's so much Ruby in this. There's good Ruby in this. There's so much A Song of Ice and Fire in this, which, like, things I absolutely love and adore are all, like, bundled up into this perfect package. And I can't say, like, I am not a fan of the show just because the last 2 episodes were rushed, because the plot we did get was amazing, you know? I just think it needed more room to breathe. I think if, like, I say 3 seasons, but I think with even one more episode, this show could have worked better. Just one more. I think one more. Let's say the final battle, the final, like, war wraps up in, like, either end of episode 9 or like, beginning of a hypothetical episode 10, and then the rest of the episode was character resolutions. Wouldn't that have been perfect? Wouldn't that have carried it home? I would still say there's some flaws because of the way the whole, like Black Rose thing was handled. I didn't really understand its point in the narrative. I thought they like they really needed to connect it to the, like, wouldn't it have been so interesting if it was, like, connected to the whole, like here's what I would say, and I think this might have been what they were trying to do, but I didn't really understand. Like, if Black Swan was, like, this secret organization that was trying to foresaw Victor's plans and was trying to stop Victor from getting to that stage, and that was explained and was doing all these, like, they were, like, kind of influencing things from behind the scenes in the story the whole time, like kind of like, you know, Bran in the Song of Ice and Fire or Quaithe or things like that. Like, if that was how that was handled and they were, like, sort of, like, putting puzzle pieces together throughout the whole narrative, maybe if they orchestrated the whole Zon Piltover conflict to sort of detract from this whole, like, you know, from a whole other mission that they're on, and that was explained and thoroughly, like, addressed, I think this would have been, you know, this could have carried it home. But because of that, I can't say it's a perfect show. I can't say it's, like, you know, the best show or anything like that. But it's still, you know, a favorite that I've deeply, deeply connected with. And all of these characters and this story will stick with me forever. So to all who pressure me to watch this, thank you so much. This was one of the best things I've ever seen. And I'm gonna be a fan for life. So yeah, I guess that's my overall thoughts. A little disappointed at the end, but overall still such an incredible series. So yeah, thanks for listening.